For this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up your book jacket cover. Keep in mind that you're going to be creating two different cover sizes. The first one will be a dust jacket cover that's slightly larger and has two different inside flaps, and this will be used to wrap around your handmade mock-up. The second cover will be a paperback cover. This is what we'll send to the printers, and it will not include the left and right inside flaps, and it'll be slightly smaller. Both of the designs should still remain relatively the same. So to get started, I'm going to close mine out. In Photoshop, let's go to File and create a new document. The size of your document needs to be 6 inches wide and 9.5 inches tall, 6.5 inches wide. The resolution needs to be high at 300 pixels per inch, and we'll keep everything else exactly the same. We'll say Create. Now this represents the front of our book. What we need to do is to add on the other parts of our book cover, the spine, the back, and the flaps. Before we do, make sure your rulers are turned on by going to View and Show Rulers, so there's a little check beside it. And we need to drag off some guidelines to indicate the edges of our page. So I'm going to click on the vertical ruler and drag to create a vertical guide on the left, and there's one for the right. Let's also do one at the top and the bottom edge. Now that we've got that, let's add on our spine. Go up to Image, down to Canvas Size, and within here, check on Relative Spacing. This will allow us to type in the exact measurement that we need. In our case, we're going to add a 1.25 inch spine to the left-hand side. Under the anchor point, choose the right center anchor point. This will expand it off to the left. And just to make things simpler, I change my canvas color to gray, or something opposite of the white that we are currently working with. When we say OK, now you can see it adds 1.25 inch spine to that side. Let's drag another vertical guide, clicking on a ruler, drag it out, place it right there. Now let's add the back page. Under Image, Canvas Size, we'll set the width to be the same width as our front page, so 6.5. Again, make sure Relative is selected, and we're going to choose the right center. And I'm going to swap this back to be white. We'll say OK. There's that set up. We'll drag another guide. And the final things we need to do are add our flaps on either side. Now these flaps need to be 3.5 inches wide. So if I go to Image, Canvas Size, I'm going to type in 7 inches and keep my anchor point in the center. This will add 3.5 inches to either side of my document. Again, I'll swap out my canvas color to be gray. When I say OK, it adds on those 3.5 inches to both sides of it. Let's drag on 2 more vertical guides. These vertical guides are going to come in handy when we start doing our layout. The last thing that we need is to have some bleed around our document. So one last time, let's go to the canvas size, and we're going to set up 0.25 on both the height and the width, and we're going to keep it centered, and I'll keep this time the extension canvas color to be gray. When we say OK, this adds a 1/8 of an inch border on all of the sides all the way around our document. From here, it's up to you how you want to design out your entire document. Keep in mind that this is the front and this is the back side of the cover. You can place any images, certainly the title of the book on here, but one thing I don't recommend doing is placing any large body copy into your design. Also, if you want to do your design in Illustrator, go ahead and design as much as possible in Illustrator, but then import it into Photoshop and save a Photoshop file to work on for this next part. Once you've got a design that you like, I'm going to save this as a Photoshop document. I'll do it to the desktop. We'll say Ivy Cover. The format does need to be Photoshop, so you keep all of your layers. We'll say Save. Let's jump into InDesign now. With InDesign, we'll close out this document I was currently working on. With InDesign, we want to set up a document that's the same size as our current page. So we'll go to File, down to New, and create a new document. The size of this one needs to be 21 inches wide and 9.5 inches tall. Just one page, and we can uncheck facing pages as well. We do need to turn on a bleed setting, so let's give it 1/8 of an inch of 0.125 on all sides. When we say create, now we've got a document that we can place our cover design into. All we need to do is choose a rectangle picture frame, click and drag from our bleed edge, and then let's drop in our design. I'm going to pause it now and show you the one that I created. You can see in this layout, any place that I have large bodies of text, I used InDesign to place this into my design. The reason why you want to do this is because InDesign will give you the best control over this body of copy. You can do bodies of copy using Photoshop. The downside is it's very difficult to maintain, and especially if you wanted to do something special like a drop cap or text runaround. I've added text in my case to the back that's got the synopsis and also the blurb. And inside flap I've got the biography of the author. Notice that my back inside flap has nothing to it, and that's okay. You design it the way you want it to be. Once I've got the design that I like, we need to save this as a PDF. Naturally, you also need to save the InDesign file, but if I export it, choose PDF as your format, we'll hit save. Under marks and bleeds, make sure you turn on all of your printer's marks and use the document bleed settings. This will allow it to print all the way to the edge. When we hit export, this document is what we're going to use to print off on the large printer. Once I've got this design done, now let's go back and set up for our paperback printed one. The paperback will be a 6:9 size. So let's go back into Photoshop. I'm going to create another new one. The size of this one is going to be 6 inches wide and 9 inches tall. We'll hit create. Now, as with the other one, we need to start adding on the size of the spine and also the bleed marks, but we're going to leave off the part where we add the last flaps. I've got my document set up. Let me pause it for a second. And I've gone to lulu.com. This is where we need to find the size of my spine. If you go to create, you can click on print book. Close out the little pop-up. Print book. We're creating a standard paperback that's going to be 6:9, so it's a US trade. We'll scroll down. We need to type in the number of pages that your book is going to be. So if you know your book is going to be 600 pages total, I can click on the spine measurements and I can get the total spine width. And in my case, it's going to be 1.31 inches. So this will come in handy. I can copy this number, jump back into Photoshop. Now to add my spine, we're going to increase the canvas size, 1.351 inches. Remember to do it to the right-hand side. We'll say OK. Let's drag on another guide. And then let's place a front cover to this. So image, canvas size. To do the back cover, we'll make that 6 inches wide. Again, going to the right-hand side. We'll make this white. Say OK. And the final thing I need to create is my 1/8 of an inch bleed. So let's go to image, canvas size one more time, and add 0.25 on both sides. I'll make that gray. We'll say OK. Now I've added that portion to it. So this is what we're going to send off to the printer. It doesn't have any flaps on either side, but it's the correct size that it needs to be. To import your original design into here, let's open up my original design that I have. So I've already done this one. I don't really want to reinvent the wheel. I want to use my existing design, and all I've got to do is to drag it onto my other page. So I'm going to open both of these side by side just by dragging it off. The quickest way to take this design into your new document is to go to your Layers panel, select all of your layers. So I'm clicking at the top, scrolling down, clicking at the bottom. Then when I click and drag, I can drag all of these layers into here, and they automatically copy over. Now it's simply a matter of placing it where it needs to go. Maybe I'll zoom out a little bit, and then I can click and resize everything. We'll say OK to any errors that come up. Click and drag, resize so that the front fits on the front cover and the spine fits the spine cover. Now you may find that your cover is a little bit thicker than the mock-up that we created, but that's okay. All I'm going to do now is to go into each of my different elements and resize them to make them fit appropriately for my text. Once this is done, as with the other one, I want to save this as a Photoshop file, then go into InDesign, create a document that's the exact size that I need this to be, place it into there, and then export that as a PDF as well. So now that I have both of these sizes, you're going to upload two different PDFs. One of them is going to be a PDF for your project, which is the dust jacket, and this PDF will count as an exercise grade that you'll upload separately.